Doctor, can you please add me manually?
Yes, yes.
Number 2.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
All right.
Doctor, can you add me also?
Yes, Amir.
Amir, yes.
All right.
Thank you, Doctor.
Semua boleh dengar kan? All of you can hear me. I suppose can hear me lah. Okay. The first thing I would like to talk before I start the class is about your attendance. Okay, like I said, this is basically my first semester coming back to teach the undergraduate and degree students. So I was told that at least at the very minimum, each and every one of you must have 80% of the attendance, betul tak? Can anyone help me on this? 80% ke?
Ya,
Doctor.
betul.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's see. Rasa dekat sini ada Rushaidi. Okay, I have one Rushaidi. Lepas tu I have Haris. Okay, who is same group with these two person? Siapa yang satu kumpulan ni dengan Haris dan Rushaidi?
Me, Doctor.
Okay, can you contact him?
For attending today class?
No. For example, meaning you biasanya you ada bercakap tak dengan dia menerusi WhatsApp semua ada tak?
Ada.
Ada lah.
Group.
Okay. So yang mana satu ni? Rushaidi ke Haris?
Haris.
Haris. Okay, rasanya you boleh tahu tak kenapa dia selalu tak ada dalam kelas? Tak sure. Tak pasti ya?
Pasti.
Okay, tak apa. Alright. So what happened is that, okay, please monitor your what we call it, the attendance. Right, I have this report, but later on I will have to redo. Okay, I will have to redo the analysis, and then I would like to check on all this. Okay, so what happened is I want to make sure that each and every one of you has an attendance of more than 80%. I do not want to bar you from your exam or everything, right? So I will contact this person, Haris dengan Rushaidi, right? Then for the rest, I will check again tarikh mana yang you tak ada hadir. For example, let's say Syuhada, your attendance is only 88.89%, right? I will check which on the dates, and then perhaps I will have to talk to you personally, right, in order to see whether I need a letter from you, show cause letter or any excuse letter said you are absent from this class because of this or that, right? I want to ensure that every one of you go through the entire semester without having this kind of problem. I want to make sure. So banyak lah 88% punya. I will check one by one, right? And I want to make sure that all of you are okay and in good hand. Boleh? Can you help me on this? Okay, in case I look for you, right? Maybe I will request a letter from you. So from this week onwards, please make sure that at least at the very minimum, you ambil attendance. You take your attendance from me. Okay? Boleh ya?
Boleh,
Maybe
Doctor.
100% is fine lah, but
Boleh.
yang lain tu. Okay. Okay, let's see who wants that manual attendant. Okay, siapa lagi? Atira. Yu Yao. Okay, again you see Haris masih tak ada lagi. Okay, who else? Rabiatul, are you inside here? Belum lagi ke?
Number 1.
Rabiatul? Ada?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, slow. Carmen?
Yes, doctor. Can you add me manually?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
Henry. Siddiq? Siddiq Muhammad? No. Okay. So 2% is absent again. Okay. Right, I will start the recording for the class today. Okay, first of all, welcome back to the class BBMN 3143 research method. We are currently in, I don't know, maybe our 9th week. Okay, so basically, as I have informed you that I have put up some of the assignments, okay, for you. So you have your group assignment 2A, which where you submit your problem statement. Okay, and in terms of submission, I will just say that tak perlu semua orang. You don't need everyone to submit it, right? Only the group leader submit on behalf. Okay, so make sure that in your main page, you list down the name of all your group members. Okay, so for group assignment, okay, so far there is one person have submitted. So I assume that this is one group, not one person, right? Okay. So maksudnya siapa yang hantar? Let's see. Okay, the group of Gan, Ching Hui. So you can submit on behalf of your group member, fine. Okay. Now the second part is that this is 2A for problem statement. Right after we have completed, maybe in a week later, I will give you assignment 2B on data analysis. Right, and then individual assignment 1A and 1B is the case scenario. So for 1A, you have until end of this week to submit. After that, the system will close. You are not able to submit anymore. So make sure you submit latest by Saturday. I have set the time before 12. So you try your best to submit. Then assignment 1B is the due date is next weekend. Okay, so that is some of the informations about the group assignments. And then what we are going to do today is we are going to continue with the second section of our data analysis chapter, okay, which is the bivariate data analysis. Okay, so as we have gone through in the last week, we talked about univariate analysis, where the main focus is more towards testing a hypothesis that is related to a predetermined, okay, predetermined value. Right? So we go back to univariate data analysis. We relook at some of the important points. Okay, we talked about this, and I believe this is the part where we talked about univariate statistical analysis. We have done that in our previous classes, right? So what we are going to do today is we are going to discuss about bivariate statistical analysis, right? The test that involving two variables, right? And again, we also look at this, right? Whereas last week we talked about univariate data analysis, we are basically testing this one, right? Hypothesis about difference from some standard. So last week I do a demonstration for you by showing you how can your value, right? You can test your data sets from your what we call it, from your data that you have collected, and how does that value is similar or varies across the one that you predict, right? So for example, you collected 50 respondents, you speculate that the mean is a value, and then finally you move on to the statistics, you get the actual mean, and then you make comparison whether the actual mean from the 50 respondent is similar to the one that you are speculating. Okay, but for today we are going to do more than that. We are not going to compare a mean with a speculated variable. Instead, okay, we are going to look at the nature of our data itself. We are going to test hypothesis between groups, right? So one of the example that I have shared with you previously was like, for example, you are collecting satisfaction amongst a group of students, and within the groups of students, you have you have genders in category, right? You have two categories of gender, either male and female. And then perhaps your statistics would like to test if there is a differences between the mean of a male and mean of female. Either they are the same or they are different. This kind of analysis is called the bivariate data analysis. Okay, so today we are trying to move into what we call it as a bivariate data analysis. Okay, the differences between two variables. Okay, when we talk about bivariate statistical analysis, there are two categories. The first category allows you to examine differences between variables because you have two variables. And the second part, which we are going to do next week, is the bivariate statistical analysis that actually allows you to compare or to assess relationship between two variables. So we start with the first part first, right? The first bivariate statistical analysis that examine differences between two variables. So one of the example is like this, right? Gender differences and double standards in ethical perception, some example, right? So you have collected data about ethical perceptions and double standards, right? So you collected data from there, and within the data, you have male and female respondents. So with that said, you can make a comparison whether ladies or women have more high ethical perceptions on standard differences, or whether male have that ethical a lower mean in terms of ethical differences. So a bivariate analysis where you test the differences is basically an investigation of a hypothesis that two or more groups differ with respect to measure on a variable. So the example that I've given to you is this, right? You want to talk about satisfaction of students. And do you know that when you collected the data, okay, you definitely have people comprises of two categories of gender, must have female and male respondent. And within the female and male respondents, you also can further subdivide them into races. For example, there are Indian, Malay, Chinese, and international students. Let's say 4 categories. So with that said, let's say you have compiled, right, or you have collected, say, for example, 400 sample respondent, the data, right? Then you can test in a very simple way whether there is a differences between the male and female students, whether there is differences between international students with Malay students, with Chinese students, with Indian students. So these are what we call it as a test of difference, right? So bivariate test of difference involve only two variables. Okay, one in which is act like a dependent variable, meaning the one that you want to study, and another one that acts like a classification variable. That means to say categorical variable. So based on the example that I have given you just now, you know that gender is actually the classification variable. You want to classify your data according to gender, male and female. You separate them into two groups. And if you want to classify according to race, you divided them into 4 groups. So this is a very introduction about what is actually the test of difference. And how do we actually compare the two means? These are the statistical, what we call it, these are the statistical formula, right? We don't want to do this because what happened next is that everything will be given to you by SPSS. So perhaps there are two types of tests of difference, okay, that we can use as entry level to statistical analysis. Okay, there are two types of tests that you can use. let's say now when you have a set of data and then you want to categorize the data to only two groups, right? To only two groups. The test that we are going to use is called independent sample t-test, like what is mentioned in the slides, okay? If you have a set of data and then you want to compare only two groups, it's called the independent sample t-test. But if let's say you have a set of data and you can divide the sets of data into more than two groups, okay, which means 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever groups that you want to compare, the kind of test that we are going to use is called ANOVA, or analysis of variance. So this is the first two analyses that I am going to teach you when we discuss about test of differences. And I also hope that you will also do this with the data that you have, okay, with the data that you have, and then you try to run it, right, and do an interpretation of it, okay. How to do that? I think I have given you an example done by your senior. You can look at how actually they do it, right? They do independent sample t-test for gender. They also do ANOVA for races and etc. etc. I believe it is depicted in the two sample reports that I've given to you. Okay, now we go back to the first part, comparing mean only for two groups, which is the independent sample t-test. Okay, so when is it adequate for us to use t-test? Okay, these are the considerations. Okay, first thing, you must make sure that your dependent variable is either using interval or ratio scale. That means to say, the data that you want to test on mean differences must be at least interval or ratio scale. Okay, so when you are collecting data for your variable, you are using Likert scaling. So they are interval scale. So meaning to say that when you are collecting an interval scale, and then you also have your demographic background with you collecting the data, you can do independent sample t-test. Because the second requirement wanted you to do your dependent variable to categorize it based on certain categories. So you have your demographic background, say, for example, gender or race, and then you collected the variable in a Likert scale of 1 to 7. Okay, your intention to switch, your intention to use green product, your intention to purchase green product, your intention to use mobile apps for payment. So you can do independent sample t-test, whether male and female have the same tendency to do green product, to switch mobile phone, or to even use mobile apps to do payment, right? Then does the grouping result in score draw from independent sample? Yes, right, because you collect from each separate individual. They are independent sample. They are not one person answering twice or 3 or 4 times. No, they answer to you only one time. And finally, is the two groups involved in the research question. Meaning to say that, okay, the last one is more of like complementary question, right? In the sense that if you have put a research question in your research, okay, I'm not saying the one that you are doing now, because the one that you are doing now, you are developing a research question that wanted to test relationship. But next time, when you move into the industry, when you are trying to conduct a research or trying to do a report, okay, what happened is that you might wanted to solve a question pertaining to whether, say for example, if you're in the marketing industry, you might have a problems of saying whether male customer and female customer, do they behave the same? So what happens here? That means to say, okay, you can do an independent sample t-test when you develop a research question that basically wanted to test the difference between groups. So if you have a research question said, is the mean difference of male similar to female in your research question? then you can conduct a independent sample t-test. That is what it means here. Okay, right? So this is the introductory part of what actually bivariate analysis is. Okay, bivariate analysis consists of two types. First, the first type is bivariate analysis to test differences. The second type of bivariate data analysis is to test relationship. So what we are doing today in this class is we are talking about bivariate data analysis to test differences, and a bivariate analysis to test differences can be further broken down into two categories, right? The first category is comparing mean differences among two groups. The second category is comparing mean of more than two groups. So the one that is comparing between two groups is called the t-test, and the one that goes for more than two groups is called analysis of variance. Okay, so that is the introductory part, and now I would like to move a little bit more into the practical part, into the hands-on part. Okay, so far can you understand from the explanation that I've given to you, the introduction? So far, can you follow? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Betul, we try lah.
Okay. All right. Now, maybe you would have start concerned that there are so many things that I am giving you, right? And there are so many things that you need to memorize, you need to think, okay? But I would like to assure you that, okay, I have all the materials ready for you, right? It's just that some of the details are dated. That means to say they have been prepared many years ago, right? Even though it is relevant, but I am thinking of making a newer version. Okay, let me share with you something. Okay, basically I have all these guidelines for you. Okay, so today we learn about independent sample t-test. This is the one that I normally give to my students. I don't know whether other lecturers they did it or not, right? So I have all this. Basically what you're going to learn for your data analysis is only these four things. So today we learn about independent sample t-test. I'm going to show you some of the materials that I have basically prepared. It is actually a guideline, right? But it was in a Microsoft Word form lah. And I think this would have dated somewhere around 5 to 7 years. I don't know, maybe more. Okay, so I was thinking to redo again this kind of manuals or guideline. So consider maybe your class and the other class is lucky because you will get the latest updated information and material from me. All right, so no need to worry because I have already laid down the guideline for you. For example, okay, you want to do an independent sample t-test, how to develop the hypothesis for independent sample t-test, what is the explanation behind, and then when you get your results, how to read the tables. But like I said, I need to redo it again because what I have now that I should have given to you is based on an output by SPSS. When today I already started to taught you about Jamovi. So I need to update all this material. Maybe I will put both results together for you to see, okay, in order for you to be able to learn. So bear with me when I'm trying to complete all these things. So I have all these steps. The first step, develop a hypothesis when you want to test whether the mean score for male and female is the same, blah blah blah, right? Then analyze how to look at the table, what you're supposed to looking at, right? What you need to do. then the steps, and finally how you draw a conclusion. Right? So all this can be considered as a template-based guideline. Okay, so when you have this in your hands, you will know what to do with your chapter 4. Okay, let's say now we say, okay, doctor, section 4.1, we provide you the descriptive statistics of the data. What is the percentage? What is how many male, how many female, all the demographic background. Then the second part come in 4.2. We want to discuss, okay, first, doctor, before we go and verify the hypothesis of relationship, we want to check whether there is a differences between male or female by implementing independent sample t-test. Right? Say, for example, based on the okay, based on one of the example that I have given you. Right, the one coming from a senior. Okay, so they go for chapter 4. This is chapter 2, chapter 3. Okay, chapter 4. So you see? Okay, finding data analysis. First, they do descriptive statistics on the demographic background. They put a table, right? And then they explain the descriptive statistics. Okay. Then they move on into test of differences. Okay, test of differences between two groups for male and female, and their variable is intention to buy. Okay, so you see, they follow the template that I have given to them. First part, develop the hypothesis. So they do the hypothesis. Second part, they put up the table from SPSS, those time. So they put up the SPSS table, and then they analyze it. Okay. Right, so they use statements like this, okay, to examine if there is significance between mean for male and female. So they also said we conduct independent sample to compare mean of intention for male and female by looking at the mean score. The mean score is 4.69, 4.96 and 4.81. Okay, so they follow here. Okay, same. By looking at the mean score, the mean is this. So they follow exactly the template. So you are so lucky. Semua assignment jawapan sudah dibagi. Boleh. Right? Same thing, the second variable, the third variable in their model. So they do one by one. This is independent sample t-test, and then they follow through by ANOVA, more than two groups. So they do the analysis. So you see that they do the work like so many pages, 190 pages of assignment, but basically most of the reports, most of the results has been given a template. I already give them this. So I will be redoing all these things using the latest interface, the software, right, Jamovi, and then I will give it to you, right? So what happened is that during the time of your senior, you see what they do is they just copy and paste the table, right? Because of they are not able to compress everything into a single table, so they copy one by one, and that's make their assignment almost 190 pages, when in actual, I'm just asking for 30 to 50 pages, right? So you don't need to worry about chapter 4. Everything will be given. Okay, so you just interpret it based on the template that I have been doing. Okay, but of course, my job, my role here is to train you to be familiar with all this analysis. Only 4 analysis. Let's look at their table of content. It's only 4 analysis. Okay, test of difference, independent sample t-test, and ANOVA. Test of relationship, correlation, and regression. Okay, of course, I will teach you on reliability tests later on, but now we are talking about these two. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have one, two, three, four. Everything is given here. Okay. All right. So far, so good. Huh? So you never regret to join my class, huh? Everything was given, ready-made. Never, good. Else you should drop earlier kan? Awal-awal minta drop tapi semakin ramai. Okay, so I give you this thing, then I don't know. Okay, you use it for the class, right? If you have friends from other class that also still have question mark of actually what they need to do, you might want to tell them what you have, but then I would not encourage you to give the notes that I do for you as students of my class to your friend who has a lecturer from other classes. Can you understand me? Okay, the notes that I created for you, okay, is for the use of our class. Okay, if your friend said they don't know what to do, you can teach them. You can show them whatever notes that I'm going to give you, but you don't give the whole thing freely to them. Okay, you don't give freely, because that is my effort to create the material for you as my student. Okay, tapi I don't stop you from teaching them. Since you learn, you know, and you have a bunch of good materials with you, step-by-step guideline. Yeah, I know I'm trying my very best, because I know we are currently having online classes. If we are in a lecture hall, I will tell you that the whiteboard will not be enough for me to draw so many things. Okay, this is the way I teach statistics. But I will try my effort to make sure that my students understand, because I know it is very tough. This morning, there are students in the class. I would like to share with you that this morning the class was so quiet. After so many class, this morning the class was so quiet when I teach them about independent sample t-test. And those who are most of the time active in the class, they started to tell me that, sir, very tough and very hard. But again, like I told you last class, you are lucky, because after the class, after I saw their reaction, I have 1.5 hours to rethink of how am I supposed to conduct the second class to make sure that things are getting better. And I'm trying very hard now, right? So by this weekend, I will prepare all the materials. We'll do the materials as quick as I can, right? So I'm giving you as souvenir or something that you can keep. Okay, who knows, 5 years, 6 years from now, when you are manager in the industry, suddenly you need this, you have something. Okay, all right. So this is my assurance to you that you no need to worry about chapter 4. Okay, you can play with the software, and if you're not sure or confused, right, make an appointment. We can do consultation after class, right? Then I can guide you slowly. Now, I want to do some hands-on activity of independent sample t-test. Okay, I'm going to show you what actually independent sample t-test is, and how does Jamovi as well as SPSS will give you different reports, okay, on the same sets of data. Now, let's start with a very, very simple activity. Okay. Today, I'm not going to give you any data, but I'm going to give you certain information, and I want you to provide me the data. So meaning to say that whatever that I'm going to test today is not predetermined by myself, it's not designed by myself, it comes from you. Okay? Live, interactive, you give me the data, you give me the figure, I run the analysis for you, and then we interpret it alongside. But in order for me to start with, I need to give you certain condition. Okay, so since we are doing an independent sample t-test, okay, so in order for us to do independent sample t-test, we need to have a data. And I don't want to use any existing available data. I want everyone to go through with me in these processes because we are learning. So we design the data live here. But in order for me to design the data live here, I need your cooperation. I will need you to give certain conditions. So let's say the first thing I need is, of course, ID. I'm setting the condition that I want, let's say, for example, 10 respondent. Okay, and when we talk about independent sample t-test, we cannot run from gender. Okay, so in this case, what happened is that I said the data that I have, I give you the condition. I want to have 5 male and 5 female. Okay, the variable that I'm going to measure, let's say artificially, we say we want to measure satisfaction. Okay, so I have 2 categories. All right. Then I give you the mean score. Okay, I wanted this condition to be fixed. Now, let's say I am hypothesizing that, okay, I have a variable called satisfaction. I don't know the data, but I know that I have 5 male and 5 female. Okay, and I know that the mean for male is 3 and the mean for female is also 3. Now, the first thing I would want you to do is, can any one of you give me a combination of 5 numbers that will give me a mean value of 3? Can you understand my question? Okay, I give you the scale. The scale is 1 to 5. So give me 5 numbers ranging from 1 to 5 that will give me a value of 3. Okay, kalau tak boleh faham orang putih, tak apa, saya cakap orang Melayu. Okay, saya ada nilai purata untuk 5 lelaki adalah 3. Okay, nilai purata untuk 5 perempuan adalah 3. Sekarang saya nak minta kelas untuk bagikan saya kombinasi 5 nombor yang membolehkan saya mendapat purata 3. Dan kombinasi nombor ini adalah di antara 1 hingga 5 saja. Anyone want to try? Amirul, 5 number. 5 number yang mana? Okay. So Syuhada, okay. Gan kata semua 3. Okay. Then Syuhada kata 3, 1, 5, 3, 2. Okay. 3, 1, 5, 3, 2. Okay. Then kita ada kombinasi lain. Okay, kejap saya rekodkan ya. Okay, ada yang kata 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Fikah kata 2, 2, 3, 3, 5. Okay, kita buat rekod sebelah. Tak apa. Okay. We put it aside all the numbers first. We look at these two numbers. Okay. Now, so given this, we know that the total value should be 15, betul tak? It's 15, right? Because you have 5 boxes, you have an average of 3, that means to say 5 times 3 is 15. Now, okay, I wanted to ask you, okay, do you think that male and female students are responding in the same pattern? Okay, my question, do you think that the male student and the female students are responding in the same pattern? No. Amirul say no.
Oh.
Okay, right? Okay, so you said no. Now, the next question that I asked, why is it no? Okay, can we conclude that is it because for female they have a variety of answer and for male they are all the same? Correct? Okay, because all male they have same pattern, all 3. Female they have what? They have different, right? Okay, so how do we know that they are different? Is because we can calculate the standard deviation, in which for all the male the standard deviation is 0 because their answer is basically the same like the mean, and for female, right, they are okay, maybe this is 1 minus 1 2 minus 2 0. Okay, so you have this. Okay, whatever it is, you know that there is standard deviation, but what we are want to calculating is that you want to calculate the variance. Okay, so the formula is variance of all these 5 numbers is 0 because you don't have the standard deviation, but then the variance for the variance for female is 1.76. Now, the first condition for you to run an independent sample t-test is to basically how to say, is to basically to understand if the two groups of your respondent is answering in a similar pattern or in not a similar pattern. Okay, this is very important. Why? Because as the example that I have shown you, okay, it is very straightforward that we know we just want to compare. Okay, we just want to compare whether the mean value of group A and group B is the same or not the same. But when it comes to statistical analysis, it is not as simple as just looking at the average and make a conclusion saying that, in this case, the mean for male is 3, the mean for female is also 3, then they are the same. No, you cannot do that. Because just now you have proven to me that, okay, we can get the same mean, but then there are differences in patterns of people answering the question. Why? Say, for example, in this case, you have a scale of 1 to 5, and then let's say we consider 3 as neutral. These people, they have a different perception than this. Because within the female, if let's say you said 1 is strongly disagree, 2 is disagree, 3 is neutral, 4 is agree, and 5 is strongly agree, you will know that in the group of female, there are one person who basically strongly agree with the statement, but this was not reflected in the average. On average, you know that they might be neutral. But which one has the most true or original neutral is the man. The female, there are some people who have basically agree. There are some people who are strongly disagree. It's a mixture. Right? So apart from comparing the mean for a variable, it is also important for us to understand the variance. Whether the variance or in one word we call it the pattern of male answering the question and the pattern of female answering the question is different or the same. Okay, so this is one part. Okay, however, when it comes to SPSS, this sort of information is really not a much concern. But then in order for us to be able to interpret the data, we need to make sure we understand this. Okay? We need to make sure we understand this. Why? Because in order for you to make conclusion whether this tree and this tree is the same, you need to explain whether this and this is the same first. Okay? So now let's look into SPSS. How do we suppose to interpret this data? Okay? I did not do anything here. I'm just saying I want a condition of 5 male, 5 female. You give me the data, but I want to fix it at the mean at 3. Okay, so I'm trying to guide you to do independent sample t-test based on this condition. So we input the data. Okay, let's say the variable is satisfaction. Okay, so we analyze this according to what you have given to me. 3, 1, 5, 3, 2. Okay, then we analyze it. Analyze, compare mean, independent sample t-test. I'm showing you SPSS first. Okay, because SPSS provide a more detailed results than Jamovi. Okay. Okay. So this is the result from SPSS. Once you run it, you got this result. I'm going to cut this result and put it in PowerPoint so that it can be enlarged. Okay, seems like something wrong with the data. 5, 3, 10, 5, 3, 10, only 14, 14. So mesti ada data yang salah tadi. Tengok siapa bagi. Whether I make a mistake. 31532. The data by Syuhada kurang 1. Sepatutnya ini 2 apa? 5, 5, 5. Okay, let's put 2. Okay, we redo everything again. Analyze, compare mean, independent sample t-test, okay. New. Okay. So this is a table of independent sample t-test by SPSS. Okay. And according to the simulation we did just now, this is what we fixed. We fixed the mean at 3 and the numbers of respondents at 5. So you got 5 male and 5 female, no issue with that. But then you start to realize that the standard deviation for men is 0 because everyone answered 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. But the standard deviation for female, there is a value because they answer it differently. Okay. Now, this is the first part you can read about SPSS descriptive statistics. No issue with that. The issue with why we need to understand the patterns that we have just now, okay, the one that I asked you, because when you run SPSS, it gives you 2 results. Okay, a condition for you to compare mean according to SPSS is that before you can make conclusion to conclude whether the mean are the same or are the different, okay, you need to analyze the equality of variance. What is equality of variance? Equality of variance in a layman term goes back to what I asked you just now. Does the 2 groups answer in a similar pattern or in not a similar pattern? So when we said equal variance assume, okay, we are saying that the variance between male and female are the same, and when we say equal variance not assume, we are saying that the variance between male and female are not the same. Okay, so maksud dia di sini is saying that, okay, equal variance assume, you can read it as the both male and female are answering in an almost similar pattern. Equal variance not assume is telling you that no, both male and female are not answering in a similar pattern. So how do we decide whether the men and the women are answering in a similar pattern. Of course, just now, because we are using Excel, we can see there is a variance. But the question now is 1.2 and 0 almost the same? Or is it 1.2 and 0 consider a big differences? So what happened is that SPSS, he runs this analysis for you and tell you. So based on the rules that you have learned, P less than 0.05, you reject the null hypothesis. It seems that you have a P value of more than 0.05, therefore you cannot reject the null hypothesis. When you cannot reject the null hypothesis, you are concluding that both the male and female are answering in a same pattern. Only by clarifying this, then only you can look at the significant, you can look at the significant, you can look at the significant value here. Okay, we start again. Right, you need to look at this one to determine whether you want to use this or use this. Because at the test of equality of variance, he gives you two results. Okay, for not variance, the significant is 1. For variance, also 1. So first you need to define, or you need to make sure that you know whether they are answering in a similar pattern or not similar pattern. So in this case, since your p-value is larger than 0.05, you make a conclusion saying that the male and female are answering in an almost similar pattern, and that the mean of male and female are the same because it is 3 and it is larger than 0.05. You fail to reject the null hypothesis. You conclude that the mean between male and female are the same. Okay? So most of the time, it is very easy for you to understand this. Okay, but the problem is SPSS give you two results. Significant mah. So nak ambil mana satu? You are lucky that in this sense that you have 1 and 1 lah. But sometimes you have, this is less than 0.05, this is more than 0.05. Which one you need to use? So in order to do this, you need to do equality of variance. You need to make assumption of whether they answer in the same pattern or not. This is results from SPSS. Okay, I repeat a little bit. Okay, you have this data, you see these results, you know all the means, and then you also calculated the variance is 0 and 1.2. This is what you do behind. But imagine that let's say you have collected 200 data, you are not going to do this. That's why SPSS is here to help you. SPSS is here to help you, saying that since you wanted to know whether men and women are answering in the same or not same pattern, I give you the report. And my analysis is telling you that both male and female, based on this value, are answering in the same pattern. And when you know that they're answering the same pattern, you take the results of significance for equality of mean from the same pattern. This is SPSS. In Jamovi, okay, the same data, right? This one, let's say 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, right? And the data was 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 5, 3, 2. Male, female. Okay, this is Jamovi. Go for t-test. Independent sample t-test. Okay. Jamovi only give you this. Okay, but you can assume that this is it. So maybe you might ask me, how come sir SPSS gives so many results, but Jamovi give only this result? That's why I said at some point of the time, SPSS teach you the fundamental of all these things. As Jamovi assume that you already know. So maybe Jamovi at some point is to make things simple, but for more advanced people which they do not know this. Okay, then you tell me, sir, why Jamovi never give me this? Right, I only got this. Okay, how to get all these things and these things in Jamovi? Okay, go back to Jamovi. You double click on the results. Okay, on this side, you can click on descriptive. It will give you the descriptive. Okay, and then you said you want equal variance. Can click on homogeneity test. Then it will give you this. Okay. So Jamovi will not require you to read this because it will release the results accordingly. It will release the result accordingly. If here it tested that it is not assumed, then it will give you the result of not assumed somewhere here. Okay, let me try to simulate something. Okay, let me try to simulate something and then show you the differences. Okay, so in the second example now, okay, initially your data was 32523, 32. Okay, I have amended now the data become 55221. Okay, what will happen now is that this is the latest results. Okay, just now we said that 0.065, the variance are equal. But now you have less than 0.00, your variance are not equal. So you need to use the significant value here. Okay, 5, 5. Two, 2, 1. Okay, the variance is 0 and 2.8. That's why you got a significant value of this. The variance now is 2.8 and 0 is so big that it is now telling you that the data are not the same. Okay, so you will be using the bottom one. So this is one good thing about SPSS, and also one confusing thing about SPSS, because you need to read this in order for you to get this. But in Jamovi, if I would just teach you about Jamovi without teaching you the equality of variance, you won't even realize it. Why? Let's say I have changed here 5, 5, 2, 2, 1. Okay, like I said, initially we were without this, right? Initially, when I first saw it, just give you this. So you just read the result and say, doctor, the P is 1, more than 0.05, then we reject the null hypothesis. We fail to reject the null hypothesis. We say that the mean of male and female are the same, but note that at the very bottom, it gives you a summary saying that the variance are not equal. It just do a note like that only. So this is the reason why I choose and told you that I chose to teach you both SPSS as well as Jamovi. Okay, because Jamovi, they simplified things for you. But as a researcher, right, something that was simplified is basically something that is important. Equal mean does not mean that both male and female are answering in the same pattern. And in this case, you got same mean, but you start to realize that they are indeed answering in a different patterns. And this is important for validity of results. People wanted to know. Because when it comes to conclusion, you might want to do a conclusion saying that male and female, they behave differently. In the female respondent, there are two extremes. 2% that are so strongly agree and 3% so strongly disagree, which neutralize everything. Whereas in men, most of them are in a neutral position. Now, do you understand how data works or not? Can you understand what I'm trying to tell you based on statistics? All right, a little bit, maybe very hard for you to digest, but at least you know a little bit. Okay, compare this. The men's are answer all in the middle, but women in two extreme. But when you average it out, kan, you nampak, no, male and female are the same, because on average they are the same. But in reality, the data that you have collected is that in the population of female, they are extreme people, too extreme. This group might not be well versed in this group, whereas the men are the same. So when we want to compare the mean differences, we need to take care also the characteristics. Okay, so SPSS give you detail, you need to learn how to read this, and this is basically written inside my notes, homogeneity of variance. Okay, if it's less than 0.05, right, you say that equal variance are not assumed. They don't have equal variance. If more than 0.05, you say that equal variance are assumed. Right? Then only you come into the mean difference, looking at the results. Right? In the example that I give you is both are 3. There are no significant difference, but the way they answer is different. And then you make a conclusion. Okay? So leads is independent sample t-test. Next class, we are going to do on analysis of variance, comparing more than 2 groups. Lagi complicated. Okay? In one case whereby you said maybe Malay and Chinese are almost the same, but Chinese and Indian are so far away, right? You can have a mean score like this, right? For example, you have, let's say now this is race. Okay? And say we put, use formula lah, average. Okay, let's say this one I change to 5, 5, 4, 4, 3. Okay, one is 3, one is 4, and then another one 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The third group 3, 3, 3, 3. So this is 1, 1, 3, 2, 1. So now what happened? 1.6 to 3 is a difference of 1.4. 3 to 4 is a difference of 1. 1.6 to 4 is a difference of 2.4. So can we conclude whether all 3 have almost the same mean, or we should conclude that mean of the first group and second group is the same, mean for the third group and the first group is almost the same, but the mean of the second group and third group are different? Do you understand what I'm saying? Compare 3 groups, huh? Okay? Ini dengan ini beza 1. Can we conclude that they are the same? This is one question. The second question, can we conclude the blue one and 1.6 is the same? Difference by only 1.4. Okay? And finally, between this one and this one, a difference of 2.4. This is what we are going to learn in next class. ANOVA, analysis of variance. So maybe we will say that, okay, 3 and 4, no difference. 1.6 and 3, no difference, but 4 and 1.6 got difference. Okay? Right? So that's all for today. Okay, so next class we'll be looking at ANOVA, and today we have looked on independent sample t-test. And if you think you are still confused, never mind, the video is being recorded. You can have a revision anytime. All right, so I'll stop the video recording now. Okay, go back to this. Haris, are you in? Tadi macam ada nampak nama you. Haris, ada